Hello and good morning, guys, and welcome back to Costa Azzurra. This will be the third episode. I can't believe it. I've never done more than two. I've never actually done more than one episode in a series on YouTube before, so this is kind of exciting. But in this episode or part of the map creation video series, we will be doing like the final touches on the map, or at least showing how I did them. I'm gonna show you how I did it. We're gonna touch on the trees. We're gonna touch a bit on like the details, like these kind of sea walls or breakwaters, you could say, like how you can make more realistic castles as well. I also want to show that off a bit. So, but the first thing I want to show is the trees, because the trees is, you cannot really overstate the importance of trees on maps and in city skylines in general. Like, trees is the secret trick to detailing, if there ever was one. So I like to, at least I've started to now, detail my maps more with trees from the start, so that the player or me or whoever sort of has something to work with, like to start with, you know. It has a nice looking surrounding. You can build a city here and it looks like nice natural landscape with fields and forests all the way to the edge of a map. And I've actually cleared a bit of the map, and I'm gonna show you how I did it on this plot basically. So let's get started. The first mod I'm using is the most important one probably, is forest brush tool. Forest brush, and this is a super great mod. The tree brush by default in the game only lets you place one tree at a time, one type of tree. So we can try it. We can try it like this. Of course, these are vanilla trees as well, so they create ruining, or like some of the default trees. What forest brush does instead is, there's nothing to do with ruining. I'm sorry for just mentioning that very confusingly, but it lets you select a few different types of trees. So, for example, here in this brush setting, you can save lots of different brush settings, and you can select which trees you want. Like, I want the generic pine. You can set the probability of it to 100%. Live oak to 40% or something like that. But I've decided for this particular map, I've only used two trees. I've only used the live oak and the generic pine, and set them to basically be the same percentage chance of them spawning. There's a bit more generic pines, I think, eventually on the map, as we can see here, and it probably has to do with the fact that there is a little bit of a collision thing going on as well. They have a smaller hitbox, so they are more likely to spawn. But essentially the probability of each tree spawning is what you set up here. Really good tool, a really good mod. Then you can use different brushes. I very seldom use different brushes though, but I do like to use the different size and the different strengths. You see, it's different strengths. And right-clicking, of course, lets you delete trees, so it's a very useful tool for deleting trees as well. It's very handy to use. It works the same way as the vanilla brush, but just much more powerful. And if you only wanted one tree to spawn here, you could just use it like that instead. And it's a bit better at basically planting trees on the hills as well. I do believe that the vanilla brush tool doesn't like to put things always on the slopes. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm just stupid. Yeah, that's probably it. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. Don't listen. We can also set the density here, which is a very cool tool. The auto density is nice, but we can make. I don't necessarily recommend this because this is probably gonna tank your PC, but we can make incredibly dense forests using the density setting here. I'm gonna go back to auto density, I think. And do like that. I'm not entirely sure why it's so much higher than it was before, but that's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And we're gonna set something up. I like a relatively strong one. That doesn't have to be so big. Oh, the wrong way around. Yeah, something like this. It's nice for painting areas, such as this one. So what I'd want to do here is I want to create like rows of trees or like lines, like separating fields, kind of like we've done over here. And that is pretty easy done with this mod, setting it to a very small size and just dragging out seemingly random lines, kind of like this. Like, this might be a bit like kicking in an open door for for many of you. You probably already do this, and it seems obvious, but I can't like overstate how really useful this is to detailing. Like how you really should try to do this if you want to have more details. You never should, you never have to do anything, of course. You can play the game just as you want, but this is a really neat trick, and if you're interested in this kind of details, I mean, this might be the trick. This is super useful. Admittedly, this looks kind of disgusting, honestly. I think it was better before I deleted it, so I might just revert this area with the old trees, but it's fine. We're showing off the tools here. We're not sort of worrying too much about how it looks. Oh, okay. Another interesting, I don't know if it's a feature of this mod, but something I've noticed is that if you're using the Find Road tools and Find Road Anarchy, if you toggle the road collision on, wait, can we show this in the map editor even? I'm not even sure we can. Okay. You toggle the road collision on, it won't sort of collide and overlap. For some reason the brush got removed there, but that's probably a map editor problem. It won't spawn on, it won't like clip other stuff. So that's pretty useful if you want to like fill in these with the tree brushes in like a residential area between the houses. But on the other hand, if we turn it off, the toggle collision, you can just overlap it. It's kind of a little bit unintuitive, but for some reason the Find Road tools and Find Road Anarchy affect the tree brush, the forest brush. Very useful if you know about it and you know how to use it, but sometimes you want to have trees very close. Sometimes you just want to use a big brush and have it go over the whole area without worrying about putting stuff on networks and buildings and stuff like that. So, oops, we did a bit of a big paste there. That's fine. Okay, so another thing that I want to talk about here is there is a mod called Lock Forestry. The mod called Lock Forestry, it might be included in your tree anarchy mods if you have those, but it basically locks the forestry resource. So I can try to show you how it works. Currently we have this area here is like forestry, and if we delete these trees like this, and go back into the thing, this is what we get. The forestry resource disappears. But if we instead, if we paint this back in, and it will reappear. If we go and lock it now and do the same thing, we can use move it as well. Then the forestry remains. This is very useful because the forestry color in some themes, maybe we can even show that using theme mixer to switch here. Some themes have a very distinct forestry color. And I think you can sort of see it here. There's a different forestry color. And that can be very useful for extra sort of details and extra painting. This theme kind of has it a little bit. Here I think you can see it pretty clearly. It can be useful for detailing. That's basically just the point of that exercise. But I like to play with it sort of as vanilla as possible. Like let the trees and let the forestry work where it's at. So I'm gonna disable it for now, and just gonna reset it by, I guess, removing and placing them back in. Can close this down again. That was the theme mixer mod. Okay, so it looks like something, but it doesn't really look like it does over here yet. But we'll fix that up. We'll fix this up by using ground resources. And here's another sort of thing where we like to use the themes we set up, like the theme mixes, to create more detail on the map. Now I'm actually just using the vanilla temperate theme, but you can use different themes if you want, like different colors. You can set up all these different textures individually. So I'm using the fertile land here, since like ideally this would be farmland anyway, so it kind of makes sense to at least most of these fields fill them in with fertile land. And you can see when we place it too close to the beach, it actually the fertile land clips the beach or like takes over. So I'm gonna try to avoid that a little bit. I'm instead gonna use the oil texture here, which is pretty good on this map for these the fields close to the beach. And I'm even gonna overlap some of the fertile fields with oil, so we get a bit of a different texture. Because oil and fertile, they sort of they stack over each other and create like different colors together. So it's a very good combination. And we can also use the ore if we wanted to. I haven't used the ore for fields on this map, or at least very sparingly, but we can use that. Yeah, and that's just the resources. We don't need the surface painter brush for this. It's not super realistic if you're really worried about like, why is there ore on this field and why is there oil on this field. But I think it's a very neat and useful way to make detailing without having to do like props and POs and networks to fill in these fields with like high mesh or like high tri meshes. And like it's a very uncomplicated, but it's a very neat way to make these nature detailing basically. So yeah, admittedly it does look better over here. I put some more effort into it to creating different styles and like different shapes, but it's fine. What we also could do here is we could like delete some of the trees in some places. Like maybe there's a bit just too many trees in some places, and we have a wild hedge brush here as well. And like just complementing these bigger trees with some hedges. I should mention we can also like do very sort of neat and organized lines with tools like crop line tool. Then we have to go and find the actual tree, we want to use. Like we can say that we want to use the generic pine, for example, because we already have it a lot. Make a neat line like that, and if we think it's too regular, we can just delete a few of them. That's another option. We can make presets of lines, like we can put a bit of randomness in like this here. Like we have a random line, and we can copy and paste this with move it and place it like a little bit where we want to create like, I don't know, subdivisions in the fields. And here you can see it actually changed the fertile color, because the fertile and the forestry color, they sort of compete with each other. So that's another reason for the lock for forestry resource mods as well. You can actually make a forest with fertile land, which I suppose I could show. That's actually a pretty cool thing to show. Okay, let's delete here. What if we make this here? This here is going to be a fertile forest. Let's do that. And we're going to go into the options. We're going to lock the forestry resource, which means this isn't going to change when we make this forested here. Wrong brush. Costa Azzurra. You can see we have the fertile ground color even though we have a forest here, so I mean, that might be useful for some people as well. That's actually a much better representation of a trick. I'm sorry I didn't show that before. It is what it is. What else? About the forest, an important thing about the forest, which I realized relatively late in making this map, is how good it looks when you do this. Like when you take a dense brush and just paint it up the valleys and the sort of the crevices of the ridges. Like you can make it more more empty on the ridges. The ridges look better if they are not covered with trees. The crevices and the ravines look much better if they are filled. So, I mean, someone is probably going to disagree, and there's differences, of course, but like, it's very satisfying just taking this brush and just going with it up these ravines and just filling them in. It looks more natural because vegetation would usually grow more and denser where there's more water, especially in a relatively dry or like more arid landscape. So, and that would be in the relative low points of the terrain. It obviously depends a lot where you are on the world, but like for this Mediterranean theme, like relatively warm, and in many temperate cases as well, I think it's a good style. Another thing about the trees on the map is there is a tree limit, and the vanilla tree limit, there are mods to increase the tree limit to almost infinite, but there is a vanilla tree limit of I think around 250,000 something. Maybe 256. And I'm using a mod here to increase it to 2 million, but you should try to stay under that because it's not good if someone loads the map without unlimiting trees mods and it just disappears all the trees or causes a lot of issues. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And we are relatively close to the tree limit on this map, so that's another reason why I needed to sort of be. I couldn't really cover the whole mountain range with trees. I need to choose where the trees go, and the trees go, and they're dense in the valleys, so creates nice views also on the map, because you get this nice horizon when you look on the mountaintops, and you don't see, like, it looks more far away. I think $2.20 has made like excellent videos and remarks about this, but like smaller vegetation near the top of the mountains makes the scale look so much more grand and massive. So even though the maps are pretty small, this mountain here looks like it could be like 80 kilometers away or something like that, because we don't have any large trees popping up and ruining the horizon. Let's show it actually. Let's make it an extreme example. What happens if we just place trees there on that mountaintop? I mean, granted, that wasn't that bad. I thought it was gonna look worse, but but if you have it like that everywhere, if we have it like, if we really fill all the mountaintops, it's just not gonna be the same. That might be all the proof we need for that, actually. I mean, you decide. Like, in some cases, you definitely have like tree-covered ridges. And you'd want to have that on your map. Like very, like rainforest, jungle environments, or stuff like that. Perfectly fine. I guess another thing that I think about when creating maps is if this area is very windy, or if there would be like a lot of winds and storms here, the vegetation wouldn't be as sort of regular the further up the mountain you go. The wind sort of limits vegetation in a way, so I try to put more trees like in the protected valleys and protected sides of mountains, and put less on the sort of unprotected or unsheltered sides of the mountains that are more exposed to like the winds and storms from the ocean. So that's probably the final thing I'm gonna say about the trees. I've been going on for a long time. And it's not the final thing I'm gonna say about the trees, because I have one more thing to say about the trees. Don't be so worried if you think like, oh, I did this whole map and I selected the wrong type of tree on it. There is a mod. You can use Bob, the tree and prop replacer, to replace trees globally. So we can try to replace the live oak tree here with the boreal pine, which my friend A Canadian Moose showed me on this map, and I was kind of stunned how good it worked. So can we find it? Here it is, boreal pine. And we can apply this global tree replace, and it will take like a few seconds but not more, and suddenly we have a completely different map. So this is great, and if you want to apply this setting sort of permanently, we can go into the Bob settings, I do believe, configurations. Yeah, I think it's the clear map data. Does not affect props or trees. Yeah. You can no longer revert map replacements. Yeah, clear map data basically applies the change. I mean, we can try it. We can try it. Actually, I don't dare to try it. I don't dare. It's a bit scary. But we can make a global replacement and make it permanent. It's possible. So, and that's another good reason of using like a few different trees, I suppose. You can. So, this one didn't work. Let's try to switch it out for some other type of tree. So, that's how that worked out. I think that's it for the trees, guys. I know I said I would be doing the details as well, but I think this is the good length, the best length we can do for a video. So, it seems like we will be doing a smaller part 4 as well. I'll get to recording it straight after this, so don't worry about it. It's gonna be up in like a few days, or like very soon anyway. But I think it's natural to separate it here. We've done the trees, we've done the nature, and I guess that's it. If you liked this video, like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and you will get like updates whenever I upload that next video, where we'll go and do this castle I was promising to talk about. So. Hopefully you found this interesting, useful, and yeah, that's it. See you next time, guys.